Well, let's start standing. Separate your feet out to hips width distance and give a soft bend in your knees. We'll take a breath in and a breath out. So oftentimes when we're standing, so if you just stand with your feet at hips width distance, soften in your knees. Even with the soft knees, oftentimes folks notice that their weight is tipped towards their toes or leaning to one side. So we'll take a moment to just steady in the legs. Breathing in through the nose and back out through the mouth. You can close your eyes for a moment. I'm just gonna pop up the participant window in case we get a latecomer or two so that I don't miss anybody. But here, as you're standing and breathing, you can notice where the weight is in your feet and try to play with doing the opposite. So if the weight is coming forward, try to shift it back towards your heels. If the weight is shifting to one side or one hip, I often stand with my weight towards one hip. You can consciously shift it over to the other side and just notice what that feels like in your feet. I'm stretching out through the toe. I'm looking for center by way of exploring the edges around center. And take a breath in. With your exhale, bend your knees ever so slightly, a little bit more. And we'll start to sway from side to side so that you can feel the transfer of weight between your feet. Maybe it gets light enough that the other foot can lift ever so slightly. With your inhale, you plant a foot that is lifted. Let the weight shift over, and your weight is shifted into your other leg as you exhale. Breathing in, planting, leaning. Breathing out, pouring into one foot. And we'll take a few gentle sway shifts.
Whoa. Need to keep my eyes open so I don't fall over.
It can feel very tippy if you're trying to do it with your eyes closed.
Yes.
You might remember that in class, I've definitely taught this as a walking motion. So you can set yourself up at the back of your mat and consciously lean from side to side like you're walking, but move very, very slowly. So this weight transfer, I originally practiced in Thai massage, getting really deliberate about the transfer of weight, but then I noticed that it's also a prevalent way of consciously moving in both Tai Chi and walking meditation. So you can feel yourself slowly shift and notice where your pelvis goes as you're shifting from side to side. And if you are taking this for a walk up and down your mat, eventually you want to land in center with your mat out wide. And I'll show you why in just a moment. But take a breath in and a breath out. And we'll sync up our weight shifts into the same side. So the next time your weight is coming into your right foot, land in your right foot, keep the bent knee, but pick the left knee up. And we'll balance here for a moment. If it helps, you can extend your arms out like wings or tightrope walkers. If it is not gonna happen, if balance is too tricky, you can use a wall, but just try to find a lift of your left knee and an uprightness through the spine. Sometimes when we bring a knee up, we round. So try to keep as much length through the spine as you can. Then you'll take a breath in. And with your exhale, take your knee out wide and to the left. We'll step the left foot out and to the left. So we'll come into a sort of triangle-like stance with the left toes pointing to the left and the right toes hugged in slightly. Shift your hips back, and you can use whatever props you have around for triangle, whether that's my beefy bolster is right here, so I'm going to use my bolster, but you can also use blocks. Try to hug your heels in towards one another so you start to feel your legs engage, and you can also see when you really actively hug in that you kind of lift up. Keep that sense of lifting. Reach your left arm either forward or down to your block or your bolster, whatever's around, and let your right arm come up. Now, even with this sense of hugging in, you can turn your upper body to the right or to the side that it's facing. The drawing in through the legs actually gives you a little bit more support to free your upper body. We'll breathe in and breathe out. We'll take a deep breath in and a full breath out. One more inhale. With your exhale, bend into your left knee and come up into warrior two just for a moment. Settle your hips so that your hips are level. And sometimes it's helpful to put your hands on your hips and sort of do the opposite. So feel one hip lift, then the other. Your left knee stacks over your left heel and your arms go out wide. Take a breath in and a breath out. Well, I can hear your breathing. That's really lovely. So we'll move with a little bit of breath. On an inhale, straighten your legs, coming towards hugging in through the heels again. Arms reach up. And with your exhale, bend back into warrior two, trying to keep the hips level. And if there's anything going on in your shoulders and you need to keep your hands down, that's okay. But try to keep some activation. So hugging in as you inhale. And as you exhale, bending and going back out. One more time. Inhale, lift or extend. Exhale, bend. This time, we'll inhale, lift. And again, the arms don't have to come up if that doesn't work, but you'll pivot so your toes turn out and your heels come in for horse pose. And it doesn't need to be the deepest horse ever. You want to feel that balance of the tilt and tuck of your tailbone so there's no discomfort in the low back. A bend in your knees, and maybe someday the thighs come in line with the knees, but that doesn't need to happen right now. We're looking for some strength through the legs, and you can have your hands out in a sort of serving platter, drawing the elbows in. And we'll breathe and move the elbows to start to activate around the shoulders. So on your inhale, take the elbows out wide, sort of like you were holding a beach ball with your hands. And with your exhale, serving platter, the elbows draw back in. Twice more, hugging in through the heels, keeping yourself stable and strong through the legs. Inhale out through the elbows. Exhale, hug in. Two more. Inhale. And exhale. Inhaling up. Exhale, elbows hug in. This time, stand up on your legs. Let your toes turn in. And bring your hands to your hips. So we've done some movement from side to side in the feet. Here, consciously give your hips a circle. And you might find that there's a particular spot you want to linger in. Right now, I'm really acutely aware of my hip flexors on my right side. But maybe there's a different spot in your body that feels really good as you circle your hips. Sometimes you get into the hamstrings, the hip flexors, or there might be a glute that needs a little extra love. Give yourself 3 to 5 circles in one direction, and then pause and change the circle so it goes in the other direction. Let your breath find a steady rhythm. Even if it doesn't perfectly match up with your movements, that's okay. When you're off your yoga mat, your breath doesn't usually perfectly sync up with your movements. You're not walking one step and breathing at a time, or getting into well, nobody's taking the train anymore, but getting onto the train and consciously exhaling our way into our seat, but you get the idea. All right, when you've circled evenly through both sides, find center, bend in your knees, take a breath in, let your chest lift. And with your exhale, hug your elbows in towards one another, bend in your knees, and fold. You can keep your hands on your back, but this little hugging in through the elbows is a nice way to lengthen and hug the elbows in. If it feels like too much, you can grab your blocks, or this is a good place for a chair. So if you don't have blocks, but you want extra support, you can always just lean your forearms on a chair, shifting your hips back and letting your head hang as freely as it can. Let your breath come in and let your breath go out. Something worth noting here is the way in which the weight shifts, where the joints try to lock out. So sometimes there's one knee that gets, let's say, cranky or more kicked back. Try to let both knees have a little softness behind them. And you can notice where the weight is in your feet and how that transfers up your legs. Allowing the breath to come in, you get long through the spine. And with your exhale, maybe you fold a little more. If it's too hot or does something funny and blood pressure or even allergies, you can keep your head in line with your hips. All right, we'll do some shoulder circles here. Keep the right hand rooted for now. Inhale the left arm up towards the ceiling. And take a breath at the top if you haven't already. And with your exhale, send the left arm forward and down to the degree that you can. Then we'll switch. Inhale the right arm up. Exhale forward and down. Okay. Inhale left arm. Exhale forward and down. One more time with the right. Inhale right arm. Exhale forward and down. This time we'll take the left arm up and we'll pause. So inhale the left arm high. With your exhale, bend the left elbow ever so slightly back. So you start to integrate the muscles behind the shoulder blade. And oftentimes when I do this, I notice I'm sinking into my lower shoulder still. So draw the right shoulder blade down your back. Look to the left. Take another breath in. And with your exhale, release the left hand. We'll do the same on the second side. So inhale, right arm comes high. Exhale, bend the right elbow behind you. Take a deep breath in. Roll the shoulder blades towards one another, especially the lower one if it's trying to push forward. Draw it back. Breathe in, look up and to the right. With your exhale, release the right hand down. Inhale to a long spine. And we'll toe heel the feet to hips with distance as you exhale. Bend in the knees. Roll your way up to stand. And let your feet steady, stretching out through the toes. Take a deep breath in. And a full breath out. All right, as we prepare for the second side, soften your knees and start to find that gentle swaying again. Keeping softness in the knees through the full range of motion. Sometimes it feels like slow dancing, but you're also welcome to take it into that gentle walking action up and down your mat. We all do this transference of weight every day in walking and a lot of our regular movement patterns, but we don't often get a chance to slow it down and notice what is happening or engaging or going on with each breath or each movement that we take. And if you do this walking style or swaying style meditation often, it becomes a bit like coming into down dog, in the sense that you can check in with yourself and notice what's different from one day to the next. Am I rushing? Is my breath fast or slow? Where am I holding tension? What feels really easeful? Now, if you haven't already made your way back towards the center of your mat, start to make that trip. And sometimes it's nice to come into a slightly wider stance in preparation. The next time your weight pours into your left foot, pause and pick up your right knee. Now, get as tall as you can here. If you need support, reach for something, whether it's a chair, a bookcase, a wall. Take a breath in and a breath out. You're welcome to try closing your eyes. It's just harder. For the sake of alignment, focus on rooting down through your left foot. Get as tall as you can from the heel through the spine. Breathe in. And as you exhale, you'll take the right leg out to the right, bend in the standing leg, and step the right foot over to the right. Doesn't need to be very wide, but shift your hips back or towards your left foot. Hug in through your heels, and if you're sort of sinking, you can kind of feel it all the way through your body. So you hug in, hips shift back, then reach the right arm forward and find whatever supports you need, whether it's blocks, bolsters. Maybe your hand is just resting on your shin because that works. And the left arm goes up once you feel sturdy. Let your breath come in and your breath go out. Maybe the breath can have that sense of ease, even though you're still active in the parts of your body that are sustaining and nourishing the shape. Take another breath in and a breath out. As you feel ready, you'll exhale to bend the right knee, come up into warrior two. And same, you can place your hands on your hips and just sort of shift them up and down until you find that perfect level spot. Let the right knee stack over the right heel. The back toes turn ever so slightly forward and hug in through your heels. Take a breath in And a breath out. And again, we'll play with the straightening and extending. So on your inhale, you'll either take your arms up or down, depending on what feels best in your shoulders. Right leg extends. On your exhale, bend back towards warrior two shape. Inhale, arms go up. Exhale. One more time. Inhale, lifting, extending. Exhale, landing in warrior two. So we'll lift the arms up this time as you inhale. Turn your right toes in. And with your exhale, we'll turn toes out and bend into horse. Toes turn out, heels turn in. If you need to change the distance between your feet, that's okay. We'll take a little bouncing action here. Last time we focused on the upper body. Here, we'll focus with the legs. You can rest your hands on your thighs and bounce yourself a little lower. You can keep yourself higher and just bounce. Looking for that way in which integration happens through subtle movements. Breathing in and breathing out. In and out. One more inhale. One more exhale. Get a little lower as you breathe in. And this time as you exhale, stand tall. Turn your toes in. So we'll clasp our hands behind our back, but take the interlace that feels weird or the one that you don't usually go towards. So different finger on top. Roll back through your shoulders. And the reason we have a strap is that if this motion doesn't work for you, you can have your hands on a strap, but have them be far enough that you can roll your upper arm bones back out of your front line. It's a bit of a superhero stance. Take a breath in. As you exhale, bend in your knees. Keep that sense that your upper arm bones are drawing back even as you fold, whether or not your hands are clasped or not. Take a breath in and a breath out. Now, with or without the clasped arms, inhale to a long spine, still drawing the shoulders and upper arm bones back. Exhale and you'll fold. If you need to let the hands go, let them go. If you have another breath or two with the hands clasped, you can drop one shoulder and then the other to get a little bit more of a stretch. Whew. On an inhale, lengthen out your spine, bend in your knees, and bring your hips all the way down to the floor. Toe heeling them in as you need.
That was not graceful.
It doesn't have to be graceful, but you don't have your video on, so I can't even tell. But it
Well,
also
that's good. I'm glad to know that, Sandy, because mine wasn't too graceful either.
We're in it together. I don't feel super graceful these days with the pregnant belly. If you have blocks, you can place them underneath your knees. If you don't need any extra support, that's fine. You can also use rolled up towels if you don't have blocks. Excuse me. We're going to take a momentary cat-cow here, but then find the forward fold in a place of comfort and ease. So holding onto your ankles, reach your chest forward as you inhale. And with your exhale, round your way back. Now, if there's not a lot of change when you round your way back, that might mean that you need to sit on something so that you can find that sense of uprightness as the middle and starting point. But we'll keep going. So inhale your chest forward and exhale your way back, rounding. Giving the spine a little undulation, you might also notice how the pelvis moves as the spine changes. Inhaling, shifting up. Exhaling, and rounding back. You can take 2 or 3 more, especially if you're finding something nice being explored through the hips or the low back. When you feel done, I'll show this from a slight angle so you can see. Do provide as much support as you have props to support. So even if you don't normally use blocks under your knees, you can use them today. We'll find a way to create a ramp shape with the bolster. And just fold over it. Now, if you come straight down onto the bolster with your head, oftentimes it feels hard to breathe. If you have another towel, you can roll a towel up and use the towel to keep space for your head. Now, if you're trying to make this work with pillows, it will still work. My bolster is super firm, so you might need to double the pillow over, sort of like the old bolsters could fold in half. That's one option. Or you can stack 2 pillows, one on top of the other, with something underneath it to create that ramp shape. But once you find your shape, close your eyes. Let it be a space of ease. And that sounds like yoga teachers speak, let it be a space of ease. So if there's something that doesn't feel comfortable, know that you have the ability, the agency to change it. I've practiced at yoga studios that are rigid about when you even can drink water. And that sort of culture gives the impression that you can't change or modify anything to fit your body better. And that's not what we're looking for today. What we're looking for is to create as much physical support in the soft things to really allow the body to feel releasing. So if you notice that your neck pillow isn't quite the right height, or that your bolster or faux bolster isn't quite doing what you need it to do, change it until you wiggle and wriggle your way into this sense of calm, where the pose allows you to settle. With these next few shapes, if there's a place you want to stay longer, please know that you can. There's a quiet introspection that can happen in a forward fold like this. So if you're really dropping in, stay there longer. But if you feel compelled to move, Sit yourself up first. Use your hands as support to just get tall through your upper body. Then you can take whatever was underneath your knees out. We're going to repurpose it and use this ramp behind the back. So you can set it right behind you. Now, different bodies will need different heights. And my home blocks are slightly different shape than the studio blocks. So just find what feels right for you right now and create a ramp that provides support from your low back up through the head that allows your head to be higher than your chest. Now, eventually, we're not going to need them yet, but eventually you might want something underneath your thighs or knees. But for now, slide your low back up against the edge of the bolster or the ramp that you've created and lean your body back. If your head feels like it's still tipping backwards, use a rolled up towel or something to gently encourage your head to move chin to chest. Now, one last bit about comfort here. If your elbows are floating, your body won't be able to completely relax. So you can grab more towels, you can grab more blocks, whatever you have around, and just give your elbows enough height that the ground is lifted up to them. Once you get your upper body situated, keep the soles of your feet on the floor. You can separate your heels out and let your knees knock in for a moment. So sort of the opposite motion that we were just doing, or position that we were just holding through the pelvis. Let your breath find its steady rhythm. And it's okay if the breath starts off active. Eventually you'll find the sort of breath that happens whether or not you force it. Resting breath or restful breath. You can stay in this sort of perch perfectly still as long as you like. It's a really nice, easeful position for the body. Or you can cross your right ankle over your left thigh and just find a simple figure four shape. And we're not trying to make this the deepest figure four ever, but if you are hoping to find a smidge more sensation, you can walk your left foot in towards your bum. That will often help. Or you can place your left foot on a block or a book, something to just lift it up a little bit. Sometimes bodies just want a little bit of soothing motion, like rocking a baby. You can do that. You can let your figure four shape rock a bit from side to side. Seeking out that sense of ease and calm. When you feel complete with this side, before we switch, take a moment in the neutral shape. So let your right foot find the floor. You can either keep both feet on the floor pointing forward or let your knees knock in again. And just notice if anything feels different from right to left. And when you feel ready, you'll keep the right foot down, cross the left ankle over the right thigh. And sometimes if the right foot is too close, it'll feel challenging to get the left ankle over. You can step the right foot a little farther away, cross the ankle over, and then slide the right foot in close enough that it's the right amount of effort or stretch for you. And once you find it, you can be still or choose to find that little rocking action again. You still have the option or opportunity to place something under your right foot as extra support. When you feel complete here, you'll set the sole of the left foot down again and knock your knees in or let your feet be at hips width distance and your knees at hips width distance. Now in a moment, we'll move towards final resting pose, and you could use this as your last shape if you prefer it. This ramp can be a nice gentle opening across the chest if it's set up right, if it's set up well for you. Maybe the legs extend out or you slide rolled up towels under your thighs or even blocks. If this doesn't seem like a good plan, I'm going to show sideline Shavasana. So to come out, you would plant your feet on the floor and press down into your hands or take a hold of your thighs to sit yourself up. To set up sideline Shavasana, I highly recommend having something under the hips, something soft. Now, and you can use towels and pillows or a bolster with some extra height underneath it. But in a moment, the bolster will come underneath my right knee. My right knee will rest on top. And my head is coming down to the floor. Now, folks often enjoy a rolled up towel or a folded up tight towel to provide enough support for your head. You'll have to feel it out and see what ends up feeling like the right amount of height and support for you. So here I am holding things. So I'm sitting side saddle to get into this. My left hip is against the towel I rolled out for my hip. I'll walk my hands towards this pillow or towel that I rolled to create a pillow. Press down into my right hand, thread the left arm under, extend the left leg long, and tap the right knee on top of the bolster. Now, this doesn't seem like it's high enough for my head because my head is tilting down. So I'm going to use 2 towels so that my head can be in line with my spine. If you have extra soft things and your right elbow and shoulder are sort of dangling, you can stick another rolled up towel underneath your right arm. However you do it, whether there's a towel sort of snugged under or not, let your eyes close or you can cover them. Allowing your final rest to be a withdrawing of the senses, an inward looking calm.
So we have a few more moments in Shavasana. If your body needs a change, you're welcome to change it up. You can add more support or shift from a ramp shape into side lying. And take a few moments, pause there. When your body feels complete with Shavasana, take a breath. If you're on your back in a traditional Shavasana, roll to your side. If you're on a ramp shape, you can sit yourself up. And from side lying, just slide whatever's under your knee to the side. Hug your knees in towards your chest and use some support to press your way up to seated. Now you can sit in any way that's comfortable. On a rolled up towel, perhaps, or a block if you have it. Let your body get tall and land your hands on your thighs. As you come up, we'll take a moment here after a longer Shavasana to just notice the return to the physical presence and awareness of the body, the conscious feeling of sensation. As you breathe here, you can tilt your head from side to side. When your neck feels like you've said hello, you can roll through your shoulders a few times, shrugging and rolling them back or rolling them forward. Sometimes it feels nice to do both at the same time, letting the head go and rolling the shoulders. After a moment, if your hips need a little wiggle from side to side to land the weight evenly, great. But eventually, land your hands somewhere on your body. Your legs are a nice place for grounding. Your belly is a nice way to say hello to the seat of your power. Or you can place one hand on your heart, or both. We'll take these last few moments together, connecting to whatever it is or was that got you to your mat. That sense of purpose. And now, with this sort of clarity and newness about the body, just acknowledge what that sense of purpose feels like in your body and your mind. Take a breath in and a breath out. Land your palms together and acknowledge anyone or anything that made it possible for you to practice today. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Acknowledge yourself for clearing space. Acknowledge anyone who made it possible for you to be here. And acknowledge how you find your way to your mat. How you did it in the past, how you did it today. If there was a particular person or idea that guided you there. We'll take a deep bow of appreciation for whatever comes up in that exploration. Whatever came up.